everyone. Thank you for joining me today in this episode of Ask, Don't Tell, where we help you realize that we're not living in a tell world where we're pitching and trying to power through our clients. Actually, we're focusing on the ask part, connecting with our customers and clients so that they really can tell us what's important to them, that we really care, and that we're able to provide them with the right solutions for whatever it is that we're selling. And in this show, I bring in the superstars. I bring in those with lots of experience who have proven to live in the ask, don't tell world. I'm a firm believer that you can't succeed in business by pitching, by powering through, by bullying people, by forcing them to buy your products or service. If you're as successful as this man that I'm about to introduce, it is because you, in a way, practice the ask, don't tell, connect with your client's world. So welcome, Greg Mohr, to the show. Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about, just very briefly, your background and what exactly is Franchise Maven?
Thank you, Oscar. Honor being here today. My background, let's see. I started off at 10, doing a little business on the side. But and then 16, I had a paper out, and then 14, I had a paper out. 16 is when I got into franchising. I went to work for Taco Bell. We all went to work at, usually most of us went to work for fast food places. Back then, mine was Taco Bell. I ended up actually not knowing it at the time, but I worked for a master franchisor for Taco Bell. My first foray into franchising on that. So got into that, learned a little bit about that, went on to manage restaurants for 15 years, became a microelectronic circuit engineer for 15 years, got tired of the corporate world, got a degree in business, read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, ruined my corporate career. And I said, I love that franchising thing. I don't have the latest, greatest idea. A friend of mine and myself, we bought privately owned dry cleaners. We bought storage units, had a couple of rental properties at the time as well. So I did the private thing, and I thought, that franchising thing was a whole lot easier. So that's where I got into the franchising world. Got my first franchise, had the help of a franchise consultant, helping me find the right one, because I'd actually gone out on the internet and gone click happy on that. And I had like 20 different franchise development people calling me. Finally got a franchise consultant who made the process very simple, straightforward. Found a great franchise, ran that for a couple of years, and then went back to that franchise consultant and said, I like what you do better than what I'm doing right now. The franchise is pretty good, but I like the franchise consultant thing, which was being to work at home, working with people all over the United States, helping them realize their dreams. And that's what got me into the world of franchising. And what we do as franchise consultants, we help ambitious, and specifically me, we help ambitious entrepreneurs and investors find a great franchise fit, or for businesses, flip their business into a franchise.
Awesome. Well, you unpacked it very well. So obviously you've been around the block. But what kind of I heard from you is, and you'll hear me say a lot in the show, and one of the skills of Ask Don't Tell is, I heard from you. This is what I'm hearing. When you're talking to clients, this is actually what you're doing. The key of Ask Don't Tell is actually listening. So kind of what I heard from you, Greg, is that you've gone through this career path in your life where you actually worked and got to see the inner workings of how the franchise world works, the pros, the cons. You worked in the big names, and at some point, you made the transition where you said, "Well, how can I help people? Right? How can I help them be able to get into the franchising world?" There's a lot of myths, there's a lot of misconceptions. They might not even know how to do it, whether it's buying a franchise or turning their own business into a franchise. And that's really the core of the reason why people seek your help. So in Ask Don't Tell, we really unpack 4 questions when we're dealing with like customers and clients. Is one of those is, why would someone need your help? Like, I believe that if you can't answer that question, if the client doesn't understand why they need help, then it's really hard to even do anything else. So Greg, why do people come to you? Like, why do they need your help? So if you were asking a client, like, what kind of help do you need? What is the main reason that they come to you?
Oscar, the main reason they come to me for help is the fact that there's about 4,000 or 5,000 different franchises out there in the U.S. today, and there's not a central repository for all the information on all those franchises. You want to buy a house? Yeah, there, you go to realtor.com or something like that. Get that whole list right there, and you can kind of just pick one out. And then you just pick out who has ever happened to be, you know, doing the sales for that house at this time. But franchising is not that way. So the hardest part about doing that is trying to figure out which franchise is the best fit for someone, for yourself in particular. Now you can get we'll talk about my book later probably, but you can go through my book. I give you step-by-step directions on how to go through the whole process if you're a do-it-yourselfer. You don't need me. If you know exactly which franchise you want, you probably don't need me. Get my book, I'll walk you through it. However, if you don't know, and most of my people, that's the one main thing, is that they do not know which franchise is, or maybe a few different franchises would be a good fit for them. And I help them go through the process of figuring out based on their background. You know, what's your skill set? What do you bring to the table? Which franchises are looking for people with your skill set that they know you will probably make a great franchisee on that. So those are the things that the main thing right there is how to figure out and narrow down the best franchises for you.
Great. So kind of what I'm hearing is, you have to, you can go to a general site, or you can contact, just the corporation, or you go to a fast food restaurant and you see franchises available. But what I'm kind of hearing is, if you were looking for the franchise world, or you just simply wanted to start a business, like what I'm hearing is it's a very complicated world out there. There's lots of informations. What I'm hearing you for, there's probably lots of myths, a lot of misconceptions. How do I know if that's the right fit for me? What would it cost? What's the time frame? What's the time commitment? Is it a cash flow business? Is it I'm buying a job business? Is it a situation where I even have the skills to do that? So in order to do that, you have to live in the ask, don't tell world. And you have to be able to dig deep, which is what we talk about, discovery. You have to be able to dig deep into your customer and the person that's coming to you for help. That was the first why. And figure out, well, what is the right solution for them, right? Is it, and solution could be, what is the right type of franchise? So what kind of questions, like give me some very general questions, but not like, hey, what's your name? Like some deep third level. What I call third level is, they connect with the heart. They tell you what's inside a person. They tell you what they really, really are thinking and feeling. What are some of those questions that you would ask the people that come to you that would really help you identify what that correct franchise would be? I know it's hard with one question, but what are just a couple questions that you would ask?
Why a franchise?
There you go.
What do you see a franchise doing for you? Why now? Where do you see yourself 5 to 10 years from now?
See, I love those questions, Greg, because ultimately you just unpackage the 4 whys. Why do you need help? Which is one of them. Why our solution? Because if you want to start a business, there's several ways to start a business. You could open up a mom and pop. You could buy someone else's business. You could buy a franchise. So why a franchise is a wonderful question. The franchise is a solution. All right, then, why Greg? Why these types of franchises? You have to uncover that. And then you asked a great question. The 4th why is why now? Why today? Like, what are you looking for today? What are you looking for 5 years from now? So those are wonderful questions through discovery. They really attack the 4 whys that I'm always preaching on this show. So you know how to do it. There's no question. So give me just briefly, like, let's say you ask someone, why franchise? Usually do they know, and I'm curious about this, do they know are they coming to you because they know what franchising is, or is it usually you're getting the discovery, but at some point you have to overcome these misconceptions? Are they coming to you with a lot of misconceptions, or are most people know what a franchise is? Like, tell me a little bit about who your target is that really comes to you.
So why a franchise? Generally because they realize, for the people that know something about franchises, they realize that that's a business that you can just step right into, business in a box, call process procedures right there. Simple and easy to get into on that one.
Perfect. All right. So now what I'm hearing is the benefits, right? So we go from, you know, the intent statement, which is kind of the introduction. Then we go towards discovery, which is figuring out what it is that they want. Of course, this is a whole process. You know, we're going to do this. We're doing this in like 10 minutes. You know, you might sit down 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 days, a week with a customer to really uncover and unpackage that. If you ask the right questions, Greg, you know that it's quicker, right? If you know you've been around, you know, yes, it's quick. But at some point, you know, you've learned and you switch to what those benefits are. So speak to me in benefits. Like, what is the benefit of buying a franchise? Just speak to me in benefits.
You've got a person that has created that business and has had it around long enough to have already made the mistakes and figured out not what not to do. So you won't, if you go into your own business, you make mistakes. They've already done it, got those out of the way. They know who you target, how you target them, what you got to say. So they've got all the advertising, marketing material for you right there in front of you on that. You've got also a mentor that's going to help you grow. That franchisor and his team or her team is your mentor. They're going to help you grow. You are going to talk to franchisees before you invest in any franchise. You're going to talk to a lot of franchisees who are currently running the business. That's a whole nother group of people that's going to help you grow. In general, franchises don't compete with each other. They all have protected territories. So you get that franchisor as your mentor. You've got those franchisees that you talk to along the way. Those are your friends. They're going to help you grow. Everybody helps build that.
I love it. So this is how I know I'm talking with someone that's a pro, right? Listen to what I said. Talk to me in benefits. You didn't talk to me in I lost the word there. Like, you know, bullet points. You know, bullet points of you know, these are a commercial. Like, you talk to me in benefits of how a franchise is going to, like, how does it impact me? How does it move me? Like, you put some emotion into, oh, so I don't have to learn the wheel from scratch. Oh, so I'm going to learn the experience for someone else. Oh, so I'm paying to avoid all the mistakes that they've made. Oh, so I'm going to be able to do the research on what they've already done because because there's a structure there. And what you really just unpacked is what I call, you know, true benefits that make people take action. And that's the key. Are you just stating, you know, oh, well, this is, you know, these are features is what I was trying to say, right? What's the features? No, these are the benefits and how these benefits actually impact you, which is what makes people take action. So speak to me again in benefits. Now you're going to like this one because it's going to be easy for you. One of the answers is, you know, you go through, why do you need help? So you ask questions of why someone would need help. Then you ask questions of why that solution is right for them. Then you ask questions of why me? Why Greg? Like, speak to me in benefits. There are other Gregs out there. There are other consultants out there. There are other avenues to the same medium. Speak to me in benefits. Why Greg Mohr?
Well, you know, Oscar, I'd have to go to one of my clients. They gave me gave me a recommendation on LinkedIn to use his words. Uh, Good, honest help, no sales. He talked to other franchise consultants, didn't like them. He came to me, just good, honest help, no sales.
I
Simple as that.
love it. I love it. I love it, Greg. You literally unpacked like one of the key foundations. I mean, we're brothers, man. We're under the key foundations of Ask, Don't Tell is you don't have to pitch. Like, there doesn't have to be this presentation. You don't have to be a salesperson. Actually, the people that come up to us the most, and a lot of our listeners come from the non-traditional sales world, probably like perhaps like you, Greg, that, you know, don't feel comfortable perhaps with pitching or selling, or is just old. And what Greg is saying is if you unpackage really what's important to someone, and if you care about finding the right solution and you present to them the right solution, you're not selling, you're helping. And the premise of what Greg does and the premise of Ask Don't Tell is selling without selling, pitching without pitching. It's actually discovery, connecting, and then helping them realize and take the actions that they want to take. I'm going to repeat that. The actions that they want to take, not that you want them to take, that they want to take. So that kind of leads us to my next little section. So you stress the benefits, and obviously at some point, they have to make some sort of decision because at the end of the day, you are a business, right? So they have to make some sort of decision, either to buy the franchise, move forward, whatever that next step may be. But you're going to get stalls, objections, excuses, right? You're going to get those. And I believe that when you get to those points, asking better questions to uncover what that stall, what that objection, what that excuse is, helps the other side really articulate or dig deeper and say, look, the real reason I'm not, doing this is because this. But you can only get that out of someone by asking a better question, a deeper question that helps you overcome and get past that. And then you can say, okay, well, I get what your fear is. However, this is how we can solve that. So what would be, when you get to that point, Greg, what is the like number one objection, stall, excuse that someone gives you to like kind of take that next step?
It depends where they're at in the
Okay.
process, Oscar, on that one. What if you, in the beginning of the process, I'll get a lot of people saying they don't want to buy a job, or that it feels like they might be buying a job. And to overcome that, I'll let them know that most franchises, I mean, if you want to buy a job, I can find you a franchise where you're buying a
Okay.
job. That's easy enough. But I got to know what it is that you want to accomplish on that. And if you don't want to be in there doing the actual work, which 90% of the franchises don't want you in there doing the work, because you can't build a
Right.
business up with that. So that's one of the ones I get. When I get any objections along the way, it generally means I have failed to educate them enough about something that they don't have enough information to make an informed decision on something. So I ask them, what am I missing? What do we not look at yet that we need to? It's simple education. They will get to that point where the rubber hits the road and they've got to make a decision. They don't make excuses at that point in time, because I've educated them enough, take them all the way through the process. They've talked to the franchisors, they've talked to franchisees. They realize what they're getting themselves into, and they're just not quite ready for it financially or time wise on that. But as long as I've educated them and got them all the information they need, they can make that informed decision. But at that point, when we get to the end, it's just a matter of a personal feeling from their point that they're just not ready for it. They just can't write the check. And that's more of nothing really I can do much about, because I've given them all the education I can at that point in time.
So I love the two questions that you asked. I don't know if you can remember those two questions that you asked, but my memory is very foggy. But you mentioned, asked two questions. What were they? Do you remember what they were?
What are we
Yes.
missing? What have I not
I
educated you on
love
yet?
those. What am I missing?
Mhm.
Or what education kind of haven't I given you? I love those questions. I mean, let's unpackage those for a second. First of all, I'm always teaching that you avoid all yes no questions. Well, yes no questions give you nothing. So a poorly trained or someone's not in that someone doesn't believe in helping people, just wants to make the sale, isn't even going to ask those questions, Greg. They're just going to say, are you ready to get started? Yes, no. And then they'll go, well, why not? Blah, 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 blah. The typical sales routine. You unpackage two questions that are super powerful. One, because they're not yes, no, but they're going to make the person dig deep. What are you missing, or what haven't I? And I'm sure you see this all the time. You probably see them kind of turn to the right, think a little bit, and then they tell you, right? And that's because they're speaking from the heart. And when you've got that information, like you've got something really valuable, and a lot of poorly trained salespeople miss that. So when you get that information, Greg, what I heard is, now I can help them with more information or more benefits of how or the why it's important for them to take some sort of action. So um, I loved those questions. I love them. Okay, so now let's say someone does move forward with the franchise, and they and they say, okay, let's get started, Greg. Do you still kind of coach them through the process post kind of their buy of the franchise, or is it once the transactions kind of get done in just in your general industry, not because you do it right or wrong, in your general industry, is it kind of like, well, they're kind of on their own? What can you tell me a little? Can tell me a little bit more about? And the reason I'm saying, because there's probably people listening that says, okay, if I buy a franchise, great, but then who helps me? Is it still kind of Greg, or is it the franchisor that kind of steps in? Is there a little bit of both? Can you tell me a little bit about
Absolutely, Oscar. I'm done. End of story.
that?
Seriously, and as a consultant, we're pretty much done. If they need anything from me, uh, I've got lots of
Okay,
connections. They can get them. No, they are going to be busy enough because we're going to put them into a franchise where they won't need me for
that's awesome.
anything. They will, yeah, they will never be wondering, what do I do next? They'll be never left out on the cold. They're never on their own. The franchisor is going to keep them so busy. I try and keep in contact with them, but my people keep so busy with the franchisor, having them do a list of things, that I'm out of the picture at that point in time. Even when I call back and say, "You doing okay?" "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm fine, fine." Don't anything. And the other franchisees that they called upon too, they've got all those people that are running the business on there, so they're never on their own. They generally don't need me. The only time they need me, Oscar, actually is 2 or 3 years down the road when they say, "Okay, I've got this franchise running like clockwork. I'm bored. Let's go find me another one." Or, "Greg, help me sell it. Love this one. Let's go do it again."
Awesome, awesome. So when you speak, like I'm always again, ask, don't tell, is listening, listening, listening. And if you listen to a lot of the questions that I'm asking you, you have to think about this stuff. Like the questions that I'm asking, you have to dig deep and say, okay, what are some of these? How is what I'm saying impacts the other end, impacts our listeners, and that's really what I'm trying to stress from Ask Don't Tell. Like it's about digging deep. So when you dig deep, listen to what I heard. Right, what I heard isn't what you said; it's what's in between the lines, and that's what makes a rock star salesperson a rock star person that gets to yes. It's asking the right questions that digs deep and then getting that information. So this is what I heard. I heard that because people come to you and you actually take the time to understand what their real needs are and ask the proper questions, and then you point them with the correct solution, which is the correct franchise, then you can sleep at night because knowing that you pointed them in the right place, and therefore that that franchise is really one of that fits their needs, and so you don't have to worry about them. And that's the beauty of it.
Nope.
That's the beauty of it. See, that's the beauty of what you do, that someone else may just kind of thrown something at them, and while they're still just the consultant, they're not sleeping well at night, and they're saying, well, did I really just put this person in a place to fail? Right, and I don't want to live my life like that. Greg, it looks to me like you sleep very well at night with what you're doing, correct?
That is absolutely correct. I, I would say every so often I get a call, or I get an email from the franchisor saying, "Hey, your client that you put in there just made Rookie of the Year this year. Keep it up. Find me some more
That's
good ones."
awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's kind of start wrapping this up a little bit. But I do have a really good question for those people that are going to reach out to you. And whether it's through the show or through you reading your book. So you don't know this, Greg, but I from another company was a franchisor. So I had franchisees all over the country and all over the world. And so I know exactly what you're talking about, by the way. But one of the things that I discovered as a franchisor is that people would come to me and they didn't realize, the ones that were really successful understood the concepts of what we're talking about today: sales, connecting, consultative selling. In a franchise, whether it's you selling to families or customers or investors, there's a part of you that's going to have to do some sort of selling, and it depends on obviously what franchise, right? But the world is sales.
Yeah.
So what would you say to those people that say, look, Greg, I want a franchise, but my fear is that I'm not a salesperson. I don't have sales skills. I'm not comfortable with it. And either find me a franchise that doesn't require selling, or educate me a little bit more so that I understand that while I have to sell, I don't have to like pitch and sell in the traditional sales. So what do you do with that? Because I think there's a lot of market out there for what you do. And their fear is, oh my gosh, if I buy a franchise, either I have a job or I have to sell, right? And those are misconceptions. So what would you say to the audience that would be fearful to reach out to you because of that?
First off, do you like running a team of people? Are you okay with running a team of people? Yes. Okay. One person on your team is going to be a salesperson then. You're going to be the executive. It's simple. Same thing with my business. What I did with my business, I did everything to begin with. I figured out real quick, what do I like? What do I don't like? There's always going to be somebody out there that not only likes to do what you don't like doing, but they do it well. You don't want to sell? Hire somebody to do it for you. Brick and mortar places, if you don't want to do any selling whatsoever, sort of, is a good place to start. Then you just think about retail, what kind of retail you want, simple retail, hourly employees, sophisticated retail, more educated employees on that. You're still going to be doing a little bit of selling out there. The world is full of selling. I mean, you got kids, you got to sell the Brussels sprouts to the kids. It's simple. Everybody does it. It's a day-to-day thing, but you want to reduce that. You don't want to have to go out there and pitch people on there to do that. And Oscar, there's actually some franchises out there that you would think you would do a lot of selling. But if you pick the service industry for one, and if you're doing, say, plumbing, HVAC, electrical services, you're not doing any selling. You got that franchisor driving the people to you when that need arises. You show up on time to their door. You think you got to do some selling, but you don't. They got a problem. They need their problem fixed. And they want to know that you're going to be the one that's going to get it fixed. It's going to be fixed on time, and you're going to be their super person.
Awesome.
That's it. You don't do any selling. It's just you showing up and saying, "I can fix your problem."
Well, again, you're speaking to me in benefits. One of the benefits that I heard from that is one of the benefits of owning a franchise is that you're not, most small businesses start out with someone selling something. So usually the person that started the business was either an engineer that understood sales, but he or she has to sell something. One of the benefits of a franchise is that you can actually step into a role. Maybe you come from, managing a team, or your dream is to manage a team. You can actually step into a role with an already team that has salespeople, that, you can find the right solution for you based on, your sales experience. But I would also say this, um, you can coach them to finding the right solution, but there's also, like ask, don't tell. In my book, Closing Intelligence, it really helps non-traditional salespeople get better at selling. And like you said, even if you don't consider yourself a salesperson, you got to sell the Brussels sprouts to the kids. So no skills, you can never have enough sales skills to be able to impact the world, get to yes, whether you own a franchise, don't own a franchise, are a business, or just running a team. You still got to sell to your team, right? So I love how you impact that. All right, awesome. So how do people start a conversation with you? Where do we take them from here? Tell us about where we can find your book. What's the book called? And then we'll just close it out.
You can just go to my website, franchisemaven.com, franchise MAV as in Victor, EN.com. On that, just schedule a call with me on that. My book, you actually get a PDF version, free PDF version on my website as well if you want. I prefer you go to Amazon and buy it, but that's just me. Free version there. Lots of good information on my website. If you do it yourself, or just go through all that information on there. Or email me at greg@franchisemaven.com, or just pick up the phone and give me a call at 361-772-6401.
Thank you. That's so awesome. So it was awesome to have you on the show today. Please don't leave after we end the show. Just we'll spend like 1 or 2 minutes together, just kind of unpackaging this, which I think was a great feedback. So I just end the show with this. Here we had Greg, who really understands the concepts, whether he calls them ask, don't tell or not. He's living the ask, don't tell world. He is really digging deep into his customers, his clients, finding what really moves them, their motives for what they want to achieve. And then he provides, benefits of how that's going to impact them. And then he helps them overcome those fears, those anxieties of doing it by not only digging deep, but giving them all the information they need to make the right decision. And that's why you're successful. So I thank you for being on the show, and I will see everyone next time on Ask, Don't Tell.